Let's try again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Wellspring. My name is Jim Moore, and I'm part of your Sunday, April 5th, 2026 service team, Easter Sunday. Now we have a few announcements. Early birds meet Sunday morning at 9:30 via Zoom. Link is in the weekly email and on the website. Our speaker for today is Dr. Edward Burlbaw. Next week, Reverend Sandy Scott will be here, Reverend Kamatara on the 19th, and Donna Stryker will be speaking on the 26th. Our Thursday evening group continues to meet on Thursday nights. Imagine that. Get coordinates from either Cleona or Edward. We have a lot of fun in that group. Our lunch bunch will meet this Wednesday at 11:30, and we're going to go to Wex Cafe on University. And our Board of Trustees will meet this Wednesday evening at 6:30 via Zoom. All are invited to attend as we do the business of our beloved Wellspring. So if you want to show up at all online, you can get the coordinates from Edward. Our April outing is to celebrate Vicki Avery's birthday next Saturday, the 11th of April at 5 p.m. Her birthday is actually on the 15th, but we're going to celebrate a little early. Did I mention we're going to Santorini's? Oh, and his birthday's April 12th. So awesome. And Dean's birthday is April 7th. So we've got three or four really good birthday people this month. The Labyrinth is finished. After service, if you like, go out and check it out. It's awesome and large. Okay, this says something about a dowsing workshop Saturday from 1:30 to 4:30 in the social hall. Is that this coming Saturday? April 18th. Okay, it doesn't show the date here. And somehow I got confused and thought it was yesterday, and I showed up and no one was here.
It's always the third Saturday of the month.
Okay. I'll try to recall and remember that. Our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit a request via our webpage or give it to Edward. Our prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We know we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limit. Now for an invocation. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? We acknowledge that love is just another word for spirit, and spirit is who we are. Let's align our individual spirits with the Great Spirit, which is in, around, and through us. We know that Spirit, as love, loves us unconditionally, will not judge us, and simply awaits our awakening to the awareness of our divine potential. We are ever expanding our consciousness of our relationship, both to Spirit as well as with our fellow beings. Life is an ever upward spiral, and we are blessed to be in this place and time, riding the arc toward a more intimate union with Spirit. I now release these words into the law, and so it is. Please stand if you are able for our song of joy.
It looks like we only have one Easter basket today, Easter hat today,
Bonnet.
bonnet. And there aren't that many Song of Joys for Easter, at least in our repertoire, so. In your Easter bonnet, with all the frills upon it, you'll be the grandest lady in the Easter parade. I'll be all in clover, and when they look you over, you'll be the proudest fellow in the Easter parade. On the avenue, Fifth Avenue, the photographers will step us, and you'll find the joy in the photographer. Oh, I could write a sonnet about your Easter bonnet and of the girl I'm taking to the Easter parade. On the avenue, Fifth Avenue, the photographers will stop us, and you'll find the joy in the photographer. Oh, I could write a sonnet about your Easter bonnet and all the girl I'm taking to the Easter parade.
Let us read together our mission, our vision, and our affirmation. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. Our affirmation: the blooming of flowers and trees around shows us that spirit expresses effortlessly in nature. We affirm and acknowledge that same spirit expressing through each of us, bringing our magnificence forward for all to see. And so it is. Now, some special music from Barry. Very nice. Thank you very much. My reading today comes out of one of my very special books, 365 Science of Mind. The flow of pure spirit always pervades my consciousness and environment. Today, I hold my thought steadfast in the realization that divine life is flowing through me. I believe in the fullness of the bounty of God. There can be no lack in spirit. Spirit now inspires me in everything I do, say, and think. Realizing that God is the animating essence of all life, that God withholds nothing from me, I prepare myself for a life of joy, love, accomplishment, health, and well-being. I permit myself to believe in the divine freedom that is my birthright. I know that the law of good keeps me in perfect activity, surrounds me with love and friendship, and causes me to experience the joy of living. It causes me to impart to everyone I meet an atmosphere of confidence and faith that uplifts and enlightens. Today, I permit the flow of pure spirit to enter my consciousness, to radiate in my environment, to bless everything I touch, to make whole that which is weak, and to turn fear into faith, and to accomplish the miracle of love. And so it is. And now it's time for Dr. Edward to come up and inspire us.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Well, happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
So, in a couple things as a prelude. So, how many of you did not grow up in, shall we call it a Christian family? Okay. I've only got one here. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Okay. Just that may become important later. Now, the other side of or the other thing I want to mention is you've probably noticed in your life that Easter doesn't always happen on the same day of the year. Not like Christmas, you know. Christmas was very carefully crafted to co-opt the winter solstice, right? And you know how they decide which day is Easter? It's the first ecclesiastical full moon after the vernal equinox. I should say it's a Sunday, first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. So the Christians have managed to, again, co-opt another pagan celebration, right? Well, got to do something, you know. Try to convert the pagans. So, well, not necessarily now, but in the early days of the church, it was done. So we can't really speak about Easter without at least acknowledging Christmas and the birth of the Christ consciousness, and the fact that at Christmas, the Christ consciousness, we celebrate the birth of Jesus, who brought the Christ consciousness into humanity in the form of a man or human. And I just want to read back from some of the reading that I did last Sunday. And this was from Joel Goldsmith speaking on the Christ. And he says, and if you recall, part of the reading talked about Krishna and the KR and Christ and how that fits all together. It says, we have today Christ accepted as a man. He says, but it wasn't. Christ is the illumined, infinite, divine consciousness of, or God, breaking through the mind of an individual and appearing as man, but not man. Christ, light, or illumined consciousness. Okay, so that's the Christ we're talking about. And we've been, in Early Birds, we've been reading the book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And so much of that he spends separating the body-mind from the spirit and talking about how we operate kind of at those two different levels. And we also talk about we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not a human being having a spiritual experience. So just kind of pondering for a moment, if this Christ consciousness is so fantastic and magnificent and all-powerful, why did it have to be brought to humanity in the form of a man, or a human man in this case? So I would say that if the Christ consciousness appeared as pure consciousness, how would we in our three-dimensional realm relate to that? I mean, we have folks who can see spirits, and my grandmother came to me, or, any of those different things that folks have. But in general, if you think kind of back to the early Christians' time, if someone were to say, well, I saw the Christ consciousness, we know what we did to them later on when they actually had any spiritual revelations. We burned them at a stake, or we crucified them, or we did something. I mean, could you imagine some saying, oh, well, we have this ghost that's the Christ consciousness that's coming to earth, and we're all aware of it, and so forth. So anyway, the bottom line is we had to be related to on our three-dimensional realm, and we had to see it with our three-dimensional eyes in order to really relate to it. And at the same time, the Christ consciousness, who came to us as Jesus, did inhabit a body. And as a body in this three-dimensional realm, it still had human characteristics, emotions, things like that. So I want to talk a little bit about, because it becomes important later, Jesus' childhood and early adulthood. So we're all probably, from our Christian upbringing, familiar with the fact that Herod was afraid that this king of the Jews was going to come and was going to usurp his power. Right? We remember that story. And so Jesus' mother took him to Egypt to get away from Herod's realm. And it said that Egypt was still under the Roman Empire, so it was easy to travel across the border, so to speak, there. So if we read it from the Gospels of Matthew, it says that the escape of Jesus to Egypt, known as the flight into Egypt, was a biblical event where Joseph, warned by an angel in a dream that King Herod intended to kill the child, took Mary and Jesus to Egypt for safety. And the family remained there until Herod's death, fulfilling prophecy that the Son of God would be called out of Egypt. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about a book that some of us are familiar with. It's called Anna, the Grandmother of Jesus. And this is a story channeled through Claire Hart's song about Jesus' life. And, I looked at that and said, well, what's this thing about escaping from Herod and so forth and so on? And so I looked it up on the internet, and did you realize that there's a Herod later in the Easter story, but that Herod, when did he die? 4 BC. How interesting, right? So let's talk about this, because in this book, I have the book electronically, so I couldn't hold it up here and show you the cover. That's the reason. Yeshua ben Joseph, Yeshua of Joseph, that's the way folks were named at that time, was born in Bethlehem in April of 4 BC. From 4 BC to AD 4, Yeshua was in Egypt. And he came back to Mount Carmel in Nazareth from AD 4 to 9. He went to Britain from AD 9 to 12. Went to India from 14 to 21 AD. And was back in Egypt from 22 to 24 AD. Okay, so Egypt seems to have played an important role in more ways than one. So while Jesus was in Egypt, and in particular in the time period of 22 to 24, he went through he studied the Egyptian mystery teachings, of course, and he went through the rite of the pyramid, which essentially proved mastery over the physical body. Now, what that meant is that you were entombed in a sarcophagus in a pyramid for some period of time. And you had to learn to slow your body down to basically nothing. But yet, you were still attached to your spirit. So that is kind of interesting. Well, also the fact, I want to mention that Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, was part of the Essenes. It's also very important that they were of the Essenes. And the Essenes did believe in the mystery teachings, both of Egypt and the Essene mystery teachings. So there are some things that I want to mention during Jesus' ministry that we're all very familiar with from our upbringing. But I think it's sort of one of those phrases that I'm going to speak that we kind of don't believe it. And this one, again, is out of one of the Gospels. It says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works which I shall do, he shall do also. Even greater than these things he shall do." All right. And all of us sort of say, well, Jesus was this really special guy who could do all these things, but no, not me. Erase that, right? Even he told us. All right, so I want to just do some chronology now. And last Sunday we spoke of Palm Sunday a little bit. And in Palm Sunday, the story goes that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey, and palm fronds and people waving, "Hail, hail, King of the Jews," that kind of thing, right? And then we had the Last Supper on Thursday, and then we had Jesus' agony in the garden. Is kind of Thursday night how we talk about that. And in the garden, it's said that Jesus prayed 3 times. "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as your will." Okay, so I think that was reflecting somewhat on the physicalness of the Christ consciousness. That at one physical level, and we all have these times when we just feel we can't do it, we can't go on. We also say we know that all these things too will pass. But he, in a sense, was surrendering to what it was he was planning or knew was coming up. Now when I have to mention because it's in my belief system at least, and I know it's in many, at least some of you all's, is that we believe that we have planned our life. And Jesus had his life planned. He knew what he was supposed to do. He knew what was going to happen. And yet he chose to incarnate into the family of Joseph, into a family which was very much incorporating the Essene philosophy. He knew where he was going to come from, and he knew what was going to happen. Just like we know what's going to happen. At some level, we know how our life is going to work out. So then, we have where he was arrested in the garden and he was put on trial, and, the civil authorities were just kind of passing him back and forth like a balloon or a ball, because they didn't want it. No one wanted to be responsible for killing this King of the Jews guy, right? Well, and Jesus knew that each of these different players were playing a role that was already, in a sense, defined. However, they were acting out of their own personality and their own consciousness. I don't want to be responsible. Let someone else beat him up, or whatever it is. And then, of course, we know all about how he was scourged and so forth. And then we come to the crucifixion. Now, the crucifixion is taught in all Christian churches. And, I asked, all of you have probably had, and I grew up Catholic, and I was an altar boy, so I was there for Holy Thursday, Good Friday, the whole works. And the approved Bible by the Catholic Church was read, and, the whole story went on. So the reason I bring that all up is that we have in our personal consciousness and the collective consciousness, at least of the United States, predominantly Christian or Judeo-Christian, we have this whole idea of crucifixion. It's there. So I'm going to read something that Anna writes. And she was a high priestess in the order of the Essenes. So she kind of knew what she was talking about. The crucifixion initiation, as it has been taught by those who attempt to control the masses through fear, would have you believe that atonement, to be one with God, is accomplished through suffering and blood sacrifice. It's in there, guys, folks. Yeah. I reassure you that suffering is a consequence only when the separate self resists being at one with God. When God or Goddess is realized as the source of love, the only sacrifice required is the willingness to offer up one's, get this, arrogant sense of separation so that love can claim its own. I mean, that's a powerful word. Arrogant. But don't many of us live our lives believing that we are separate from the oneness? And the craziest thing about it is, it doesn't matter how strongly you believe it, you aren't separate. So last fall we had Keith Giles spoke here. And I picked up his book. And this book is called The Quantum Gospel of Mary and the Lost Gospel of Truth. Now, we kind of all probably have at least heard in the periphery that the Gospels and the Bible that we know today has been amended, abridged, edited, all to provide the story that agrees with what the Roman Catholic Church has taught and many other Christian churches have taught. But it turns out, and we've heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but there were several other things that were or documents that were found in the caves there. And one of them was the Lost Gospel of Mary, or the Gospel of Mary, and the other was the Lost Gospel of Truth. And I want to read something from the Gospel of Truth because it fits in with this idea of crucifixion. The Gospel of Truth, however, rejects the vision of God as divine judge, whose sentence of condemnation against us impelled Jesus to come into the world to die for our sins. Instead, it declares that those who belong to the Father do not think of him as harsh or wrathful, but as a loving Father who sent Jesus to find his lost children and show them the way back home. Consequently, rather than seeing the writing on the cross as a death sentence, whether Pilate's or God's, this sermon transforms the image of what was published on the cross into a positive message that the Father sends through Jesus to reveal to his own who they really are. Who you really are. And we fight against that. Oh, we fight so hard not to accept our own magnificence. Another statement that's often associated with the crucifixion is the statement, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And the they could be anyone from the individuals who were driving the nails to the Pharisees, to Herod, different Herod, to Pilate, or all the Jews, whoever you choose to blame, right? Forgiveness always seems to sort of have this power over. When we say we forgive somebody, we have power over them, right? Well, that's baloney. So I want to read something else from Neil Donald Walsh. And you know him because he writes the book Conversations with God. And he said, understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master. And what is the understanding about these folks who don't know what they're doing? What they do is based on how they come or what their worldview is. They come from a perspective of their worldview. In this case, in the crucifixion of Jesus, many, and I sort of alluded to this, they may not even known that they were part of this larger plan that was working through. So from that perspective and understanding, then there's nothing to forgive. And this applies directly to our personal experiences. If we have a situation where we need to forgive somebody, let us turn instead to understanding. And in a sense, you can take it to gratitude. If someone has wronged you, you can take it to gratitude. And so forgiveness in a way becomes unnecessary. Well, then we know after this crucifixion thing, and I guess I want to, we were invited to go to a movie the other night. It was called The Passion of the Christ. And it's a Mel Gibson movie, 2004. And I told Sharon, I says, well, it seemed like it's a 2-hour movie. It was about an hour's worth of gratuitous violence against the body of Jesus. I mean, it was bloody and gory. But I looked it up, and they said there was only, 15 minutes of that. It's like it seemed much more than that to me. But anyway, I said, well, I'm here. I'm going to watch the whole thing. What am I going to get out of this? And what I got out of it, and I'm going to speak this without judgment because afterwards, someone stood up and spoke. And they talked about the lashes that Jesus had received. And they said, at least one of those lashes is because of my sins. And I thought, ooh, that just goes so totally against our belief now. But again, that is in the collective consciousness. So what is ours to do, right? So we talk about resurrection. And resurrection, and this, I believe this reading, oops, lost my pages here. This is from the Science of Mind. Resurrection is rising from the belief in death, a restoring or a renewal. We recognize that life is an unfoldment and must necessarily culminate in a victory over death. Jesus made it plain that we should do even greater things. He taught us that the kingdom of heaven is not reached through the gateway of death, but by overcoming our limited beliefs while here, by recognizing the Spirit within. So I apologize for reading too much today. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Never mind. From the book of Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, and this is quoted out of that, and I've tried to abbreviate it in some places. Have you at one time or another believed that crucifixion equals suffering, usually in the way of paying back a debt? Original sin, guilt, or shame? Do you insist that Yeshua, in order to be the Christ, must have suffered and died in order to redeem a fallen world? What if Yeshua did not suffer? What if he did not die? What if his crucifixion was simply a demonstration of how you can align your will with divine will, release all attachment to a limited identity, and open the way to being the radiant one you already are, not the false sense of who you are? Entombed in the material world, but the self who is looking and breathing through the mask of pretense. Are you ready to take Jesus and yourself off the cross of endless suffering? Are you ready to shift your focus into resurrecting your consciousness into enlightened states of happiness, joy, and bliss, instead of justifying why you feel betrayed, abandoned, trapped, helpless, and hopeless? Are you ready to take back your power instead of blindly giving it to mediating priesthoods, saints, teachers, or unquestioned limiting beliefs? When it is time to allow growth and expansion of your inner authority and divinity, are you willing to fly free of self-imposed prisons that were the structures and teachers that once served you? If your answer to these questions is yes, then I genuinely celebrate you. Once you understand that Yeshua learned from his youth how to pass through crucifixion, dying from limitation, or dying to limitation, and resurrection, aligning with eternal life and original innocence, you can begin to allow for the possibility that he did not suffer to pay any form of debt. He did not die for your sins. He lived to model love and forgiveness so that you could choose to live by the same qualities he demonstrated. Again, still reading. I encourage you to let go of the idea that transformation, change, and detaching from the nails of limitation or crucifixion had to be a hard struggle, full of tragic drama and fraught with suffering. If you allow your separated consciousness to die into unity consciousness, you may pass much more easily through your crucifixion initiation into resurrecting and ascending yourself as a living Christ. So I was going to spend some time talking about Ascension, and I realized that there's another book that does a fantastic job about Ascension. And part of this statement about Ascension, we say that Ascension is the processes that ascend consciousness into full enlightenment, a unity consciousness, immortality, and union with the creative source. So some of you are familiar with this book. You do not have to go through this resurrection process to get to the ascension process, and the name of the book is Oneness. I know some of you have been reading this. I went back and looked at some of my... I've read it. I made notes. You can tell, right? I have something here that I marked for myself in 2018. Wow. Forgotten I read it that long ago. So, just kind of wrapping things up here, after Jesus resurrected in the tomb, all that kind of stuff. Basically, that was the same process that he'd gone through when he went through the pyramid initiation. His spiritual body had all but detached, but yet his physical body was still being held alive, so to speak. All right, so then he came back, and he was in his physical body, and he taught for another period of time. I think some people say it was 30 or 40 days. And then Jesus ascended into heaven. And at that point, he elevated the molecular structure of his body, elevated the vibration, so that, we didn't have words for someone who just disappeared before your eyes, right? And so we said Jesus ascended into heaven. And he came, after that period, he came back to his Essene family on numerous occasions and spoke with them. And it was said that it was harder and harder to see him as time went on, or to see his light body, because his vibration, he continued to grow. His light body continued to vibrate at a higher and higher frequency until it was very difficult for those, even the Essenes who could see with the spiritual eye, to see him. And it does, those who are on the other side that want to be seen or heard by us do have to lower their vibration in order to get at least somewhere in, we see in this range and they're in this range. They have to bring it on down so there's at least some overlap so we can see it. But anyway, and you can go into a whole bunch of things about where is heaven, so to speak. Where are these folks? Well, they're right here. I don't want to get into the complexity of that. But anyway, the Christ consciousness is here. It's in us and it's around us, and it's our job, our duty, call it that, our responsibility. It's our gift to the world to bring ourselves into our Christ consciousness as much as we can, or as often as we can, depending on how you want to phrase that. And in a sense, find our own oneness and our own ascension. So it is. So let's just take this to prayer. So we allow as Jim prayed us into the presence earlier on, we just take a moment to feel that presence in our own bodies, whatever form it feels to you, be it a warmth or a glow. We accept that presence. We accept the part that we have to play in this divine process of our own unfolding, our ascension, our elevation of the world we live in, everyone around us, the entire cosmos. So we know that that presence is always there, always available. We breathe it in, we breathe it out. So we give great thanks for this knowingness, this understanding, and the love and the joy that we share with one another. And so it is. And now we have our very nice musician. Vicky's not here to.
Great job. Thank you very much. Now it's time for our offering. Thank you, Judy, number 2. As we acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts, we give great thanks for the offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both part of the one flow. We affirm that we are also part of that flow. We bless these gifts and know they are multiplied throughout our community. Thank you. There are a number of folks who have contributed to the production of this service. We are grateful for their service. Barry, Brenda, Judy, Edward, half the congregation. And did I mention Brenda? Edwin. Okay. Hopefully that's I didn't leave anybody out. We thank you for joining us today in Zoom land and here in the sanctuary. Lastly, you may stay around in the Zoom meeting after service to visit and or join us in the social hall. Today is birthday Sunday, but we're going to have our birthday cake next week because Dean was determined he was going to make it and he wasn't feeling well enough to be here today. So next week we're going to have a homemade cake by Dean, and so be sure and be here. Please stand if you are ready, able, and we will read with me the benediction followed by our congregational song. Did I say that again? Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world, and so it is.
Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Now there is peace on earth, a peace that was meant to me. With God as our center, united all are we. Now we walk with each other in